Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I am said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, let's talk about the latest Xbox news for the week of July 16th, 2026, including the Xbox reset worsens as massive cuts hit id Software, Obsidian Entertainment, Bethesda, and more. Games like Avowed 2 are being canceled in favor of known hits like Fallout. Halo Studios' work culture is reportedly an HR mess. All that and more. On this day in Xbox history, in the year 2008, 18 years ago, your very favorite Xbox 360 game was released. Of course, I'm talking about The Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. Now, I don't remember what it was, if I was like listening to something on YouTube or in passing, The Chronicles of Narnia was mentioned, or if someone I was talking to mentioned, I don't remember what it was, but it was a weird like poll to hear someone mention The Chronicles of Narnia, because I remember being, I don't know, 6th grade, 7th grade when, I think it was like in 6th grade when the first Narnia movie came out. No, I was in 5th grade. And I remember it was a huge deal, because I was of the age group that was being targeted for this movie. And I remember, in my 5th grade literature class, we were reading the first Chronicles of Narnia book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, in anticipation of the movie coming out. And I remember being like, oh wow, this is like up there with like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and all these things. And I remember thinking this is gonna be one of those things that just sticks around forever. I remember like at that time, in the early 2000s, it was like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Chronicles of Narnia, Series of Unfortunate Events. What was that, Lemony Snicket? That was like his pen name or whatever. And then I think there's like one or two others. What was that? Aragon or whatever, the dragon series that there's a few of. I just remember being like, oh, this is like a thing, this like high fantasy that's super popular, this like young adult teen fiction high fantasy, not to lump, Tolkien in with that, but unfortunately there was a lot of crossover between like Harry Potter fans and Tolkien, even though obviously Lord of the Rings is a little more highbrow and high class than something like a fucking kid with a wand up his asshole complaining about his dead parents. But I just remember being like, this is it. This is like the future of entertainment. This is what the people want. I thought to myself as a 12-year-old or wherever old I was probably, 5th grade. So I was probably 17. And I just remember like thinking like, this is it. And then Chronicles of Narnia came out, the first movie, Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it was like huge and it did well. And Disney was like, oh, we made money. And I was like, I want the game for Nintendo DS. And then a few years later, I was like, it took you long enough, but here's that sequel. And they got, what was it? Was Prince Caspian the second one they did? I don't remember the order of the series. And then that was like kind of it. I think they made a third one. No, Prince Caspian is the third. Well, they made like Voyage of the Dawn Treader or something. I don't remember. They made like 2 or 3 of these and then just kind of gave up. And then I remember they did Series of Unfortunate Events, and they did like the first movie covered the first 3 books. And then they just kind of gave up. And I remember seeing that movie being like, this is pretty good. And I read a couple of the books as a child, and I remember being like, yeah, this is pretty good. I like what I'm seeing here. And then just like, no, everything just died. It was like Harry Potter just continued on. And now as someone who lives in Orlando, Florida, it's like, I can't, Harry Potter is objectively a huge IP. It's big everywhere around the globe. People love Harry Potter, but especially if you live in Orlando, Florida, it's one of those things where like you're acutely aware of Harry Potter, because there's such a culture around like the big IP draws of the theme parks here. So like people are just like an extra layer obsessed with things like Star Wars and Harry Potter and fucking Back to the Future and Mickey Mouse and all that stuff. So like I'm used to thinking like, I guess Harry Potter was the one that won out in the end, but it's weird to look back and be like, there was a time where, dude, I fucking thought, I remember thinking, I was like, yeah, Harry Potter's cool, Lord of the Rings is cool, I'm more Chronicles of Narnia guy, and now I look back at 31, I'm just like, what the fuck happened to that series? No disrespect to author C.S. Lewis, I know those books, the series was very popular, he's a very acclaimed Christian author, I know that, good writer of the novel and whatnot, but that movie series, it kind of like, it came in fast, and then it just kind of died with a whimper, like just after book 3. And I think it's like a 7 or 9 book series if I remember correctly. So it's like they just kind of gave up. I don't know what happened there. Anyway, that's not even in relation to the game. I'm just mentioning the fucking the what am I saying here? The movie series based on the book series. But this is the video game based on the movie based on the book. Don't you understand? And just to be clear, as I make all this statement, I'm not trying to lump all these things in with Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game, the movie, the novel, the serialization, the fucking audiobook series or whatever. This is unrelated to all that, despite the fact that 2005 Peter Jackson's King Kong was in the midst of like this peak Narnia, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter bullshit. But I don't think Monkey Man fits the bill. I think he's something a little different. He's more of a classic work of cinema than he is like a representation of literary culture. Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh, that's right. Xbox fired a bunch of people. Guys, welcome to Xbox On. It's a podcast I used to do because I was really excited about Xbox. And honestly, these days, I just kind of do it because obligation, because I have obsessive compulsive disorder. And it tells me that I need to keep on recording podcasts about Xbox, even though there is just a dwindling audience that really doesn't give a shit. All right, let me be real with you guys. So this week's a big one. Last week we recorded a little early because I had to make some recording arrangements to accommodate some family visiting, and what that left us with is a whole week and a half gap between recordings. So there's not only a lot to talk about, but we're also a little bit behind. So I feel this like pressure to address all this shit going on in the world of Xbox. And I thought about like right before I started recording, I'm like, I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. Like, I have thoughts and opinions. Sure, I guess that's what this podcast, this unwarranted podcast, is all about. I particularly have thoughts and opinions about what the fuck's going on with cutting people at places like id and Obsidian. It's like, at what point is a studio allowed to feel like, hey, we did our job, we're safe from layoffs? Apparently Xbox says the answer is at no point, unless you're fucking Halo. For some reason, you can fuck up Halo till the cows come home, and your job is secure as hell over there. But anyway, we'll get into all that. Like, I have big, passionate opinions about specifically what's happening with like in Obsidian, but just in general at Xbox. But aside from that, overall, I feel like I was just texting with Cronky, and he's pretty pissed off. He's pretty much in the like, I'm boycotting Xbox. I need a break. Like, I need to separate myself from these guys. They're kind of scumbags right now. And it's like, I respect that. And I think I even expect myself to feel that way. And I'm a little bit surprised that I don't, because I don't know what it is. I had to work through these feelings perhaps, but I can't tell if it's that I kind of understand where Xbox is coming from, or it's like, after, I don't know, what's it been, like 7 years we've been doing this show? After 7 years of trying to talk about Xbox on a weekly basis, I gotta be honest with you guys. This isn't a way of saying that Xbox On is ending or anything. What I'm saying is, I'm tired. As the meme goes, I'm tired, boss. It's, in the summer of 2019, I said, it'd be a fun like pet project, a creative outlet for me would be to do a podcast about video games, because it's what I love. And I love to blab, and I love video games, and a podcast is a relatively low effort way to do something and feel like I'm creating something on a regular basis without having to overextend myself. So I was like, this will be fun. Let's do a podcast about Xbox. And it's such a weird time to have made that decision, because the Xbox we had up until the summer of 2019 feels like such a quaint and innocent Xbox compared to the Xbox we've had since really that fall. I mean, starting that fall in 2019, they teased the Xbox Series X, and then the world will never be the same again. I mean, after that, it's just like, new consoles, pandemic, we bought Bethesda, we bought Activision, fuck you, you're fired. Here's a game we're making, just kidding, it's canceled. Here's a guy we hired, just kidding, his kid has cancer, he's fired, so he doesn't have medical coverage. It's just like, I just thought we were going to talk about how Halo goes vroom and stuff like that. I didn't realize we had to talk about Dan from accounting's fucking wife who has breast cancer not being able to pay her medical bills because Asha Sharma said we got to make cuts at, fucking the studio that did nothing wrong. Again, I'll round back. I am tired. I did not know that this is what being a fan of Xbox was going to be all about. But, it's crazy. We're 7 years. It's where 7 years can take you. So with that said, I guess we're going to talk about a lot of really negative news. As always, I feel like I have to preference. Oh my God, I need to cut this word out of my vocabulary. I need to preface with the fact that I'm not looking to be negative. I like things. If I didn't have to do the podcast tonight, I'd probably take a shower, lay in bed, and play a little bit of Doom the Dark Ages Revelations DLC because I think it's really good and it's really fun and it's what I've been playing. But unfortunately, the world of Xbox is not one where you can just enjoy Doom the Dark Ages. It's one where you have to play Doom the Dark Ages while thinking in the back of your head, what did they do wrong? Why did they all have to get fired? What did they do wrong? What's wrong with this game that everyone had to make their job go by, that everyone has to move back home to Kansas because they can't afford to live? Well, I guess id Software is in Texas. Whatever. Anyway, you get the idea. We don't have to talk about that anymore. New game releases, Densha Attack comes out as of the day I'm recording this podcast, the 15th. I'm very much looking forward to this game, or I was. I played the demo on Switch too, realized how shit I was at it, and then turned me off a little bit, but I do want to play this game. It's very, I don't know, Jet Set Radio Future meets fucking, what's that rail grinding game that people play? I don't know. It's like an iPhone game meets Jet Set Radio meets Guitar Hero. It's very cool. It is like, you control a bus basically, and you're grinding on rails and you're dodging obstacles and doing skateboarding tricks like Tony Hawk. And it's just a weird ass game that's really cool. And, it's out now. I hope I successfully sold you on the game. Whatever. Fuck it. I'm just going to head straight to the news because it feels really weird talking about anything other than the elephant in the room. So, okay. Last week we got all into the studios that are being kind of walked away, the teams that are being set free, so to speak. We talked about the Double Fine Compulsion, Undead Labs thing. And now we're going to talk more about the job cuts. Because remember, there are 3,200 job cuts coming over the next year, beginning with 1,600 now, and then another 1,600 over the course of the next fiscal year for Microsoft. With their fiscal year starting August 1st, with now being the last month of the fiscal year, this is clearly much like last year when they did cuts and canceled Perfect Dark and shut down the initiative and all the rest. This is very much a let's clean house now before we reset for a new fiscal year. And then boom, here's our budgets, here's our expectations, here's where we start with the clean slate for the new year. Let's go. So I mean, with that said, let's start to talk, as last week we talked about more of the studios that were being set free of Xbox's reign. Let's talk more about the studios that must remain under Xbox's control while suffering the consequences of being owned by Xbox. Beginning with some Bethesda let's talk about this shift in approach in strategy for Xbox, beginning with Bethesda. So, all right, we head on over to VGC. We rip straight from their website and read the following. Bethesda is restructuring around its strongest franchises. Its head of studios has told employees following sweeping layoffs across Xbox. Bethesda boss Jill Braff sent a note to her own staff detailing significant changes at the Elder Scrolls and Fallout publisher. According to IGN, Bethesda has been hit particularly hard by Xbox's layoffs, with staff across its development studios either already told that they are cut or facing an uncertain future. In an email sent to staff, Braff said that the cuts are a strategic change that reflect the realities of the industry and business and their responsibility to ensure that Bethesda is operating from a more stable foundation. She wrote, "As we look ahead, we will meaningfully evolve how we operate. For decades, Bethesda has organized its business around the individual roadmaps of a largely independent development studio, supported by centralized publishing and corporate teams. This model enabled us to create some of the industry's most beloved franchises. However, rising player expectations, increasing development complexity, and more competitive markets have changed the economics of our industry." They continue on, "The best position for Bethesda's future growth, we are shifting from planning a model primarily centered on what's next from each independent studio to one that focuses on our strongest franchises and determining the content roadmap that best serves our players at Bethesda as a whole. From there, we'll align with the right talent, technologies, and resources across the organization to deliver those priorities." The studio head's comments follow a Bloomberg report from Jason Schreier that claims that Bethesda was set to undergo a significant overhaul and pivot to focus on its biggest franchises: Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein. Bethesda's other notable game franchises include Starfield, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Wolfenstein. Why is Wolfenstein on there twice? Fuck you. Microsoft confirmed on Monday that Dishonored and Deathloop studio Arcane will be divested. Like they're just basically letting them go. Like they're basically just saying, "Fuck you. You're on your own now. You're not shut down, but you're not being sold off. You're just kind of like left to your own devices." All right. In her email, Braff claimed that by working more closely across organizations, sharing expertise and capabilities, and focusing on our investments on the opportunities with the greatest potential, we believe we can better support our franchises and IP with meaningful long-term potential. She adds, this does not change the importance of exceptional creative work, craftsmanship, innovation, which is what makes Bethesda special, blah, blah, blah. Our studios, teams, identities, talents, expertise are essential success. Bullshit. What changes is how we align those strengths, bringing together around franchises and IP to position Bethesda for long-term growth and continued investment in the future. All right, before we, because really like the first dozen stories all kind of run together. Before we really start breaking it down and digging deeper into all this, I do just want to say one of the first things that crossed my mind, actually every time people talk about Xbox layoffs, Bethesda-owned studios, in particular as we get into like id Software and stuff, is I seem to remember, I don't know, man, in 2017, when Wolfenstein, what is the second one called? It's the New Order. The New Order is the second one. I don't fucking know. The second Wolfenstein game in 2017 when it came out, I remember playing it and being like, "This game's awesome. Everything's cool." And then I remember the game was like 3 or 6 weeks old, like something like short like that. And the game came out around the fall time, and by the holidays, it was already like on sale for like $40, whatever. And I remember being like, that's weird. And then noticing that's kind of a trend with Bethesda games. It happened with it's Evil Within 2. It happened with Dishonored 2. It happened with a lot of these games. And then I noticed it happened with Doom 2016, where it's like these games come out from Bethesda, whether it's Arcane or Machine Games or id or Bethesda proper, but specifically with these other companies that make these more single player games like Dishonored, Doom, and Wolfenstein, where they come out, they get rave reviews, hardcore gamers talk about how excellent these games are. They sell like 2 million copies, and then boom, they're on fire sale, and then it's like, whatever. It's the game's not selling anymore. Prey, whatever, all these games. And then I remember being like, is that like profitable for Bethesda? Does this make sense for them to like have these teams and spend all this money for these games to like have this little burst of sales and then immediately go on fire sale because they can't sell any more copies? I know that's generally how games work, but it seems like Bethesda had a particular issue with that problem with that kind of trend. And then I remember when Xbox bought Bethesda in 2020. And I remember people saying, like some pundits and such were speaking, like people from the IGNs of the world and the Windows Centrals of the world, somewhere in these corners, saying things about how, well, really, Bethesda's actually been kind of in a rock and a hard place where they're making these games and they're not doing all that well. They're doing great commercial or critically, and they have like a great first week or two of sales, but then they fall off hard and they're not super profitable. And that really, outside of Bethesda game studios making things like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, a lot of Bethesda, like ZeniMax owned teams, their games kind of end up being like financial washes, or they're not super profitable. And I just kind of remember that being a subtle background discussion surrounding Bethesda for a while. And then when Xbox bought Bethesda, there was a little bit of this like assurance that's like, well, they got fuck you Microsoft money. They're good now. This kind of fixes Bethesda's financial woes. So I feel like that is a talking point that has been abandoned for the better part of this generation, or really for the entirety of this generation. And I just feel like it does beg the question, regardless of what Xbox did right or wrong, I do wonder, and maybe because the Phil Spencer administration was so keen on letting these teams kind of operate as they were, it's like, oh, we bought Obsidian, go do what you were going to do. Oh, we bought ZeniMax and Bethesda. You guys let all your teams just do whatever the fuck you're going to do. Oh, we bought fucking Double Fine, go make an indie game. I think maybe because of that, as a result of that, it's like, well, did things ever really get better for Bethesda? Sure, they had the protection of Microsoft when the going was good and when the economy was good and all the rest. But like, fast forward all these years later, after being part of Team Xbox, it's like, what have they done to make themselves a more secure, financially secure entity for Microsoft? because even stuff like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, like, listen, I loved that game. I loved that game a lot. The game did great, critically. It has phenomenal reviews. People who've played it loved it, but it was kind of the same thing. It came out on Xbox and people were like, I don't think this game sold all that well. And then a couple months later, it came to PlayStation and it had a little burst and was like, yeah, I mean, it sold a couple million units, but I don't think it really like rocked the world sales wise. I'll put it this way. Indiana Jones definitely did not do for Xbox what Spider-Man did for PlayStation by any stretch of the imagination. Not that those IP are exactly one-to-one, but like, you get the idea. And I just feel like there's this whole talking point that's just kind of conveniently vanished at a time where maybe it's the most poignant, which is like, it seems like Bethesda was always in a little bit of a funk outside of things like Fallout and Elder Scrolls. And under Xbox's ownership, they never really addressed that or got out of that. They just kind of kept doing exactly what they were doing. Like Deathloop sure as hell didn't fix things. Indiana Jones seems to not have done much for them. The Doom sequels, despite, again, how well received they were critically and how well they did in their first week on the market, doesn't seem like those games did all that well. I mean, last year, Xbox bragged about how like 10 million people played Doom the Dark Ages, but then apparently people who scrape numbers together estimate that the game sold like fewer than 1 million copies on Xbox, thanks to Game Pass, cannibalizing game sales. It's like, I don't know, man. At what point do you go, damn, I don't think these teams are like really bringing in any money. So, okay, that's one thing. And before you get mad at me and ask for my head, just know I want to bring that up because I think it's relevant. Now, I don't blame Bethesda or these teams. I don't blame id Software. I don't blame Machine Games. I don't blame any of these people, any of these teams for the fact that that trend continued. What I blame is Microsoft for not coming in I blame Xbox. I blame Phil Spencer, Matt Booty, and Sarah Bond and these people for not coming in and being like, okay, you guys are part of Xbox now. Let's look at what you guys do well. Okay, Fallout kills. Elder Scrolls kills. We need to have one of those going all the time to pay the fucking bills. Now, what do we want to do here? Okay, you want to make another Doom game? What can we do to make Doom more profitable? Does Doom make sense on Game Pass? All these things. It's like there's all these conversations that maybe should have been had that never were had. And as a result, all of Bethesda's teams were able to continue to operate exactly as they were before they were owned by Xbox. And it doesn't feel like things ever really got financially stronger for them. If anything, it only got worse because Bethesda Game Studios in particular wasn't bringing in the money because we never got another Fallout game. We never got another Elder Scrolls game. We got Starfield, and Starfield did substantially worse than Fallout or Elder Scrolls would do. And I feel like because they can hide under Xbox, the conversation's kind of quieted down. But the truth of the matter is, I suspect that things haven't been peachy at Bethesda for a while now, and that this whole reality has just kind of been swept under the rug and ignored, and the retort has always been, oh well, they got Microsoft to hide behind. They're fine. Don't worry about them. Game Pass will save them. I don't know, man. Like this is the thing I always warned about, the thing I always worried about, like why you shouldn't buy Activision, why Game Pass maybe isn't the best thing for Xbox. And it's like, this is kind of it. It's like, because what do you do when you can't sell more than a couple million copies of Doom between PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and then you cannibalize it even further by putting the fucking game on Game Pass for PC and Xbox, therefore limiting yourself exclusively to PlayStation to make any fucking money? It's like, I don't know, man. What position are you, Xbox, putting id Software in when you do something like that? I don't know. So I just want to put that out there. I don't really know if that conversation or if that tether is if we're gonna pull at that again and tie it in as we continue on. But I did want to start with that because it was just something that randomly came to mind where I'm like, why hasn't anyone mentioned this? I feel like Bethesda was not financially in the greatest place when Xbox bought them, and we just ignore that as things have consistently stayed the same during the entire ownership of under Xbox. But let's continue on and get more into the specifics. This is gonna be a little weird. We're gonna basically talk about Bethesda and the Bethesda family of studios and Obsidian, which Obsidian, of course, is an Xbox game studio, not a Bethesda team, but it is relevant and related to what we will continue to expand into. So our next story here, VGC says, most, if not all, of id Software's coders, 60 to 70 Obsidian developers, and more veteran developers have reportedly been laid off by Microsoft as the scale of this week's last week's big Xbox cuts become clearer. While initial headlines were focused on the sale of Undead Labs, Ninja Theory, Double Fine Compulsion, regaining their independence, the scale of Xbox's significant wave of job losses is still taking shape. And then also just total tangent here. Apparently some people are saying, and it's hard to know what's real and what's not because Xbox doesn't confirm or deny any of this, but it's like a lot of people are saying, hey, the first round is 1,600 people they're laying off. That doesn't account for the fact that they're spinning off Double Fine and Compulsion, saying you guys go independent, you guys go do your own thing, or they're selling off Ninja Theory or whatever. Like that doesn't count that. It's like we are releasing those teams, so we don't count that as layoffs. And then 1,600 people that remain with Team Xbox will lose their job in addition to that. If that's true, I mean, that's fucking crazy. It means at the end of the day, they're really laying off a lot more than 3,200 people. But anyway, let's continue on not knowing the answer to that. According to Kotaku, around 60 to 70 developers were fired from Obsidian, which includes producers, artists, designers, programmers, QA testers, and writers. The Outer Worlds art director, Daniel Alpert, who served at the studio for 2 decades, took to LinkedIn to confirm that he's been part of the cuts. A.K. Fido, a narrative designer at the studio, also confirmed that he'd been affected. Elsewhere, it's been claimed by 3D Realms founder Scott Miller that most, if not all, of id Software's coders have been let go. Now, that we'll get back to in a minute because that's kind of been touched on since that was initially kind of stated. But I mean, first thing here is let's just stop and do a little derailing for the sake of Obsidian. Listen, Xbox, this is where we'll go full Cronky and defend his point 100%. I understand that Undead Labs has been under Xbox's ownership since 2018, and in the time since, they have put out a total of 0 games, right? And State of Decay 3 is still in development. I understand that the initiative has been around since 2018 until last year when they were shut down, and all they managed to accomplish in those 7 years or whatever was absolutely nothing, and then they got shut down. I understand that Ninja Theory was acquired in 2018, and the only thing they were able to do in the entire time they were under Xbox was create a sequel to a Hellblade game that nobody wanted, that was a overstaffed, over-budget sequel to a game that originally was made by like 40 people, that was somewhat of a AA kind of like obscure artsy, not indie game, but like indie hit style thing, and then proceeded to double their team and triple their development time to then make a sequel that was completely unnecessary and at no point really showed its or justified its development time or cost, other than its superficial aesthetics, which is just to say the game looked pretty. Oh well. I understand all those things, and you can make arguments for all these teams as to why they could be cut loose, fired, cut staff, whatever you want to do with them, right? But let's talk about Obsidian for a minute, okay? You motherfuckers bought Obsidian 2018. They had just announced the Outer Worlds, and then it was like, okay, well, it's not going to be Xbox exclusive because this was already well in development. Deals were already made. So they put out the Outer Worlds like a year into their ownership under Xbox. And while it's not an Xbox published game, it does sell pretty well for a new IP. It does pretty decent and gets a reception that's like, hey, this is pretty good, pretty great first attempt. I think that if they go do a sequel, they could really nail and build something super special here. And that's where Obsidian starts. From there, in no particular order, they go on to deliver Grounded, Grounded 2, Pentiment, Avowed, Outer Worlds 2. I mean, these motherfuckers get to the point where last year they put out 3 games. They put out Avowed, Grounded 2, and Outer Worlds 2, all within a 12-month span. And while, yes, none of these games were Fallout popular, none of these games were Elder Scrolls popular, none of these games lit the world on fire or became Xbox's next Halo or Gears of War. I get that. It's not lost on me. But all of these games ranged from a quality output of pretty good to excellent. As someone who played almost all of these games, I can tell you, like, Obsidian's output has been mind-blowingly impressive in terms of how fast they get games out. And the creative output of this team is of a quality that is seemingly, in the modern sense, not the highest, but very good for especially, what they're paying and how long these games are being made for. And I do think there is potential for Obsidian to be tapped in a different way where they could be extracted, where they could extract something even greater or better from them. But at no point, considering that Phil Spencer and Matt Booty and that leadership structure enabled Obsidian and encouraged Obsidian to make the games they wanted to make, to do the things they wanted to do, the fact that that team was able to give Xbox like 5 or 6 games in the short time that they were owned by Xbox tells you that that is your workhorse. That is the team you go, okay, maybe Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed didn't light the world on fire, but there's something about these guys. This is our workhorse studio. There's something about these guys where we can really do something special with you. And instead of acknowledging that, recognizing it, and then getting the proper leadership to really tap into this team and build them into something even better than what they already are, instead you just go and start gutting the fucking team. Like, dude, if I'm at Obsidian, in the past 8 years, I've shipped 2 Outer Worlds games, 2 Grounded games, Pentiment and, what am I trying to say? Pentiment and Avowed. And then I find out that Xbox wants to fire 70 of us. And keep in mind, Obsidian's like a medium-sized developer. So like, I don't know, maybe 300 people work there. They're going to cut almost a third of your staff. Because what? Because you put out too many fucking games? Because Phil Spencer and Matt Booty told you to go make fodder for Game Pass, and you did exactly that. You aced the goddamn assignment, and now you're going to get fired for it? Like, I can understand why you look at Double Fine and say, you guys are awesome, but you don't align with what we're trying to do. Here's your IP back. Here's your independence. Keep going, but we don't need to be family anymore. I can understand why you look at Ninja Theory or Compulsion, you go, this was never a good match. We're not going to shut you guys down, but here's your IP. Here's your studio back. Go do what you got to do. We're parting ways. I can find, you can justify those studio departures and splits and everything. And I can be like, I don't love it, but okay, I get the business reality of it. But I don't like, I obviously not the smartest person in the world. I don't have all the information. I don't know that you could possibly spin this in any way where it makes sense for me, where I'm like, oh, okay, I see why you had to kill about a third of Obsidian. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, what the fuck? And what really doesn't make sense is, let's roll into the next story here. Obsidian, this is per VGC and Bloomberg and GameFile. Obsidian has canceled a planned Avowed sequel that they were working on. Okay, so Xbox, after Avowed kind of underwhelming, greenlit an Avowed 2, which I personally would be happy about because I liked Avowed and I thought there was a lot of potential for a much better sequel. But like, what the fuck? If Avowed didn't impress you, why the fuck are you going to double down on it? But Obsidian has canceled the planned Avowed sequel to begin work on a new Fallout game. That's according to Bloomberg, which claims that the studio design director Josh Sawyer will helm the new project after shifting over from another planned RPG, which is said to be similar structurally and thematically to Fallout. According to the report, progress on Avowed 2 was going well and it was on track to be announced within the next year. However, it did not fit with Xbox CEO's Asha Sharma's new strategy. The shift comes as part of a major reset at Obsidian parent company Xbox, which plans to lay off thousands of workers and refocus on its biggest franchises, Halo, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, etc. Around a quarter of Obsidian's workforce is said to have lost their jobs this week. Okay, somewhere between like a third and a quarter. As part of the cuts, according to WARN notice in California, seen by GameFile, Obsidian is losing 52 workers, including 43 based in California offices and 9 in-state remote workers. Obsidian was purchased in 2018 by Microsoft, and last year they released Avowed, Outer Worlds 2. We talked about all this. According to Bloomberg, Obsidian will continue to create content for the latter 2 titles, so they'll continue to make DLC for Outer Worlds 2 and support Grounded 2. In a Bloomberg interview with Obsidian head Fergus Urquhart, I never say his name right, Urquhart, whatever, published earlier this year, it was implied that Grounded 2 was a big hit for the studio, but neither Outer Worlds 2 nor Avowed met sales expectations. Now, Grounded is made by a smaller team. It's kind of their side project, but yes, both games have seemingly done pretty well. But yeah, before we then transition into id Software, let's talk about this a little bit more. So the word is that basically Asha and her team came in and said, said, "Hey, you got this company here, this team Obsidian. They make these games that are like Fallout. We got this Fallout show that's like the biggest show in TV right now. People are clamoring for Fallout. You got Bethesda Game Studios, who's like, nobody will make Fallout but us. We will make Elder Scrolls for 45 years, then we'll make Starfield for 45 years, then we'll make Fallout for 45 years." And Asha and her team are using the common sense approach and going, "This is absolute bullshit. Why are Todd Howard and Bethesda allowed to go to Xbox and say, you are not to give our IP to someone else. We are the ones who are going to make these games. Let us take our time and do things the way we want to do." Someone came in there and said, "Listen, man, we can work together. We can be friends, but like, there ain't no fucking way you're going to tell me that you're going to take another 4 years, 3 years, whatever, to make Elder Scrolls 6 and then start development on a Fallout 5 that won't be seen until Fallout 4 is like a 38-year-old game. Like, in what world does this make sense?" And that was the trajectory we were on under Phil Spencer and Matt Booty. That's what they were allowing to happen. And in the one respect, we all thought, wow, that's so cool that someone like Xbox or Microsoft could acquire, a team like Bethesda and then still have enough creator and creative respect to say, hey, we know it would be the easy thing to say, pump out another Fallout for us, but we respect your creative vision, your passion, your idea that says Fallout will come when we're ready to do Fallout. Let's work on this in the meantime. But listen, man, Xbox is a for-profit business. They've been struggling for a long time. They need hits, and they own some of the biggest IP that they're just fucking ignoring. So yeah, I don't blame Asha Sharma, and this is me, of course, editorializing and embellishing here, but assuming that she or someone under her new leadership went to Todd Howard, went to Bethesda and said, ain't no fucking way in hell we're going to let you sit on Fallout while the TV show is currently blowing up and people are clamoring for more of this game. And you're just going to lie to us and tell us, oh, we're giving you Fallout. Here's Fallout 76. Nobody gives a shit about that game. We want Fallout 5. We want a new Fallout. We want a fresh Fallout experience that's going to get millions and millions of people to say, holy fucking shit, I got to play that game, And you got, I don't know, Obsidian just sitting here, and they've kind of made a Fallout game before, and it just happens to be pretty much critically the most beloved Fallout game in the series history, and they're over here like kind of missing more than they're hitting, making these like Fallout Elder Scroll adjacent new IP that aren't really kind of resonating with people. I don't know. Why don't we just fucking give them Fallout and let them make the game people actually want to play? Maybe that will do good for us. Maybe that will sell some consoles and some game copies. Maybe that will help get some fucking money on the board for once. So listen, it's really hard because it's like, theoretically, I want to side with like the old way of approaching it, where it's like, hey, we respect our creators. We're going to let Todd Howard and his team make Fallout when they're good and ready. But at the same time, I'm like, dude, this is horrible business. This is like how to run the worst business 101. Step 1, have something everyone wants and refuse to ever give it to them ever, in exchange for $0.00. Like this is just bad. So I can't blame the new Xbox administration for kind of being like, no, we own you guys. We own these IP. We're going to make the executive decision, say, give us Fallout. We're going to have one of these other teams make a Fallout game. If you guys want to make Fallout 5 in 2972, that's great. But in the meantime, we're going to let Obsidian make a fucking Fallout game because people need a Fallout game. I'm not going to argue with that for a second, but this is kind of where I get to like that I don't know how I feel phase of it, because it's like I kind of respect letting Bethesda do what they want with their IP when they want. It's cool, and I really respect that because Obsidian wasn't working on Fallout games. We got new IP and exciting new things, and they were able to flesh out the Pillars of Eternity universe by making things like Avowed and leaning into new IP like Outer Worlds. I'm like, okay, that's cool. We wouldn't have games like Pentiment. We wouldn't have games like Grounded. We wouldn't have games like Avowed if Obsidian was just put on Fallout bitch duty, the whole time. So it's like, I'm kind of multiple minds, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, if there's like two things you could look at Xbox and be like, I can make this brand better in 2 seconds. Here they go. And two video game related decisions. Be like, Obsidian, go make a Fallout game, and Halo Studios needs to get fucking shut down or rebooted hardcore. It's pretty fucking obvious where you guys are failing. So I don't know. I can't blame them for wanting to make this decision. But again, on like a principled matter, like there's a part of me that's like, well, fuck you. You know, I want to rebel. I want to be like, fuck you, Asha and the new administration for telling Obsidian not to make their own IP, not to make their own creative projects, and telling them, oh, just go make a Fallout game. Although I'm sure there are people at Obsidian that have wanted to make a Fallout game this whole time. I don't know. I think business wise, it's 2000% the right move. There's no denying it. Like you can't spin this any other way. This is exactly what they should have done starting like 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, like we should be like a year or two away from getting this Fallout game, not just now starting to form the team to incubate some kind of concept of a Fallout game. So there's that angle of it. And then here's the other thing is I want to say is it's like, there's something about the ownership of Bethesda and Obsidian for Xbox that just doesn't make sense. And if you really want to get fancy with it, you can even throw In Exile into the mix, which is that, you know, in the 90s, Brian Fargo and his team Interplay create this CRPG game, this top-down isometric RPG game, Fallout, and its sequel, Fallout 2. And whatever, they're cool, they're kind of niche, nerdy hits on the PC, whatever. And then Bethesda, these guys at Bethesda are huge fans of this series. And in the 2000s, they acquire the IP from this now defunct Interplay team. And they go on to reimagine the series in this new game called Fallout 3, which is really a totally new take on Fallout. And it gives the series this absolute bona fide mainstream boom of success. It makes Fallout this household name that people know and love to this day. And then shortly after Fallout 3 releases in 2009, Obsidian, a team that has a lot of history with the folks at Interplay and people at Bethesda, then goes on to kind of use the bones of Fallout 3 and quickly do an asset flip and make this other Fallout game called New Vegas. And people fucking love that game even more as the years go on. History just becomes more and more favorable to Fallout New Vegas. And the weirdest thing is Xbox now owns the IP and all three of those teams, because Interplay's kind of, you know, core team would eventually kind of reform under In Exile, which Xbox owns, and then they would make some kind of Fallout adjacent IP that's kind of like old school Fallout called Wasteland, and that game would go on to be awesome. And then Obsidian would start making their own Fallout adjacent game called The Outer Worlds, and then Bethesda would continue to hold Fallout hostage. And the thing is, it's like when Xbox bought Obsidian, before they had In Exile, before they had Bethesda, there was this really cool notion that was like, oh, I see what Xbox is doing. That's a smart acquisition. So what they're going to do is have Obsidian, this team that made Fallout New Vegas that everyone loves, go, fuck it. Well, if Bethesda has, you know, Fallout, let's have a team people like even more than Bethesda, have them make some Fallout killer with this Outer Worlds game, have them make some Elder Scrolls killer with this new Avowed game, and have these be like Xbox and Game Pass exclusives. And it'll be like, boom, you like Fallout? Well, check out Outer Worlds, and it'll make Xbox awesome. And this will be a great new IP to help compete with PlayStation and give Xbox that new hit, so people don't always go, oh, Xbox is just Gears, Forza, Halo, because no, we got Avowed, we got Outer Worlds, we got these Elder Scrolls and Fallout killers. And it was like, okay, that's kind of a badass move. That's a really smart move. And that was kind of what we were talking about even on this podcast in like 2018, 2019, right? And then, you know, by the time you get to 2020 and Xbox buys Bethesda, it's like, all right, now I'm scratching my head, because what the fuck are you doing? You're like, oh, we'll make our own Bethesda style games with this acquisition of Obsidian, and now it's like, never mind, we'll just buy Bethesda also. It's like, okay, well, now the only thing that makes sense is to go, okay, Bethesda, you go make Starfield, and we're gonna give Fallout to Obsidian and have them make a Fallout game. And they didn't do that. So I don't know. The way I thought of it is, it's like, you got Bethesda who can make a Fallout game. You got Obsidian who can make a good Fallout game, but they're not allowed to. You got Bethesda who has the rights to Fallout, and only they want to make it, but they're too busy doing something else. And then you got In Exile, which is like the core originating foundation of Fallout, and they're just kind of like in the background, like, hey, we're technically part of Xbox too, but we're not really doing anything here. And it's like, not to say they're not doing anything. Obviously, they're making Clockwork Revolution, but like, there's just something where it's like, it feels like Xbox has lemons, water, and sugar. And in 2020, instead of Xbox going, all right, we got lemons, we got sugar, we got water, let's make some lemonade. They go, okay, let's make some lemon juice, let's make some water juice, let's make some sugar juice, let's make 3 different types of juices. Audiences will love this. Everyone wants water juice. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing, man? Well, it's like when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. No one at Xbox ever heard that under Phil Spencer's administration. They're like, when life gives you lemons, sell those fucking lemons to people. And that's not to disrespect Avowed or Outer Worlds or anything of these wonderful games that I personally really like that Obsidian made over the past handful of years. It's just to say, it's like, dude, 2 + 2 = 4. Everyone knows peanut butter and jelly goes together. Like, you know, like they're match made in heaven. Don't put these 2 things in front of our fucking face and then call us stupid for wondering why you're not doing the obvious. Obsidian should have been making Fallout before COVID happened. And now you motherfuckers, well, I guess not when COVID broke out. What am I saying? But the point just being like, this is just stupid. This is silly, honestly, the way Xbox has handled it this whole time. So I'm of 2 minds. Like, I don't really understand how you're going to go, hey, Obsidian, thanks for making like a shit ton of games in a short period of time. Go fuck a quarter of your people off and tell them to go to hell. And then also go make a Fallout game. But good luck because we just fired a quarter of your team. Dude, my brain hurts just trying to figure out how this is supposed to make sense. So it's a conundrum because it's like, part of me wants to be like, fuck you, Xbox, for telling these people what games they're going to make, for creatively forcing them into your prerogative and for laying people off. But then another part of me is like, thank you, new Xbox. Thank you for finally doing what needed to be done the whole time, for giving Fallout to Obsidian, telling Bethesda to take a step back because you answer to them now and whatever. I don't know, man. It is a very conflicting situation. I just feel like this is why I can't see this news and just immediately be like, oh, fuck Xbox 100%. It's like, fuck Xbox 70%. I don't know, man, because it's like, I kind of get this. But don't worry. Xbox does plenty to make themselves the bad guy. So let's put a pin in the Fallout situation, the Obsidian, the Bethesda situation. Sorry. Whatever. Personally, to wrap that up, I don't mean to sound like the bad guy. Maybe I'll eat these words down the road when people start quitting because they feel creatively stymied or something. I don't know. I am excited that Obsidian is being handed Fallout because if you think about it, at the rate Bethesda's been going, Bethesda Game Studios, I mean, we're on track to get Elder Scrolls 6 maybe in 2028. Maybe. I feel like that's kind of generous. I feel like we would have seen some gameplay of it by now if that were the case, but let's just be really kind and say Elder Scrolls 6 is 2028, and then they're going to start incubating a Fallout 5 presumably. Like, no thank you. By the time that Fallout game is ready, let's call it Fallout 5, by the time it's ready, and I shit you not, 2036 or whatever, I mean, we're going to be like 21 years away from the release of Fallout 4. That's not okay, man. Listen, I am all for letting good things breathe. It's okay to miss things. It's okay to say, hey, remember Fallout? That was great. Let's take 10 years off. Let's give Fallout 10 years of space to be missed. But there is such a thing as too much time. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you go 20 years between Fallout entries, it gets to a point where it's like, me as a Fallout fan might get to experience 2 brand new Fallout games in my lifetime before I fucking die. Like, I mean, you gotta be realistic. I can't go around being like, oh yeah, Fallout 3, I remember that came out when I was in 8th grade. Finally, they're making a sequel and I'm 70. It's like, I don't know, man. There's no hard rule about when it's too soon or when it's been too long, but I think I can comfortably say, and most of you would probably agree, 20 years between Fallout 4 and 5 is probably a pretty bad idea. Todd Howard, I know you're aging like a vampire, but let's be honest, you're not a young guy. I don't know that you have it in you to get to get fucking Fallout 5 to the finish line. So I don't know, man. I count this personally as a win that Obsidian's been handed the IP. And who's to say they even make Fallout 5? Maybe they don't. Maybe they make Maybe they make something like Fallout New Vegas, where it's like a spin-off or an adjunct game. Or, you know what else would be cool if they did to Fallout what we've all wanted them to do to Halo? Be like, yo, in Exile, do you guys want to make a Fallout CRPG again? Or, yo, fucking, I don't know, let's make something up. Undead Labs. Oh, just kidding. You got rid of them. Fucking, who knows? Oh, here we go. What am I trying to say? Blizzard, do you guys want to make some dungeon crawling fucking Fallout game? Does someone have an idea? Is there a tactical turn-based combat Fallout game someone wants to make? Does the Call of Duty team want to make some Fallout FPS? I don't fucking know. The idea is just that Fallout is an IP that mostly stands tall because it is a world that people want deeply to explore and to live in. Not in real life, but, you know, in the context of the game. And it's like, well, you have quite the catalog of developers who could probably make some really interesting, unique, new experiences set in the Fallout universe. Maybe fucking do something about that instead of just greenlighting Kiln in Senua 3 Attack of the Psychosis Beasts or whatever the fuck they were doing. I don't know, man. So there's that. Let's put a pin in that, because really the thing that gets me hot and bothered, I think that's a sexual term, but we'll use it in a different context here, is really what's going on with id Software, because this is... I'm going to need to take a long sip of Pepsi Zero for this one. All right, this one just straight up pisses me off, because it's kind of the similar thing to what happened with Double Fine, but I think times 7, maybe? All right, let's read here for a second. An id Software developer affected by this week's sweeping Xbox layoffs claims that the Doom and Quake studio has been nuked into the dirt and relegated to support studio size. On Wednesday, a WARN notice filed in Texas, I don't know what that is, all caps WARN, maybe I should have done some fucking research, filed in Texas, which is where id Software is, indicated that 96 workers have been laid off at Richardson, Texas-based id Software, and a further 40 remote roles had been cut for a total of 136 job losses. According to the announcement published by the Communication Workers of America last December, id had 185 employees in total. What the fuck? Hang on. It had 185 employees in total, which would mean that if this figure is accurate, the majority of the studio's workers have been laid off in this huge Xbox cut. There's no way that's true. Anyway, Derek Best, a former VFX artist at id who worked on all 3 modern Doom games, published a lengthy post on LinkedIn saying that he was in shock at how brutal the layoff cuts were. Collectively, he says, quote, decades of knowledge was wiped out of the studio. The VFX team was eliminated down to one single artist with no lead or producer. The engine programmer responsible for the massive gains in VFX pipeline improvements like the particle editor work was also let go. All devs that had Houdini knowledge for procedural modeling or cached animations were wiped out. So all of the work for Doom the Dark Ages in the program has gone to waste with no one to carry it on. He concludes by saying, great job, Microsoft. Nothing says business success like nuking a team into the dirt and relegating them to support studio size while also throwing out massive technological achievements. id Software is one of the most historic developers in gaming history, known for cutting-edge technology used to power shooters like Doom and Quake. However, Best speculated that the cuts could lead to the developer no longer building its own games or using its own engine technology. Quote, writing on the wall is getting relegated to support studio size and moving to Unreal, he wrote. God, no. Based on internal email and the roles you can see clearly got impacted. Engine team was decimated, supremely short-sighted, and brain-dead moves from Asha et al. In another LinkedIn post, id VFX artist Todd Boyce criticized the timing of the layoffs, which took place the day before the release of a major expansion for Doom the Dark Ages, which he claimed developers crunched to complete. Quote, this was what insanity and despicable corrupt greed look like. What a complete disregard for the people who spent months working unpaid overtime to make the DLC and for an engine that has consistently been the industry standard for performance. It's pretty insulting how it's been done, when it was done, and what it will do to the id brand once those who are still employed for now. id Software also has a Frankfurt, Germany studio focused on id Tech Engine. It is not clear if they had been affected by this week's cuts. So let's continue on with another story regarding id, because this is what a lot of people were going off of at first, and this is kind of the benefit of me not recording on time last week is that we've had time to kind of mull it over and get some additional information, because this is what this former employee was saying. But apparently, Xbox comes out to do some damage control, and we get this information. So id Software has now played down the impact of last week's layoffs for the studio, claiming that it still has the crew, quote, the crew we need to build the games and tech we're known for. So they're saying we can still do id Tech. We can still make a Doom game with the size of a staff we have left. Thank you for all the support this week, it wrote. While our studio was impacted, those changes were spread across all teams. We still have the crew we need to build the games that we are known for. The team today is about the same size that we were when we made Doom in 2016. And have always had a flat studio where everyone is a maker, and we will remain true to that philosophy moving forward. The statement continues that we are focused on supporting each other and the team members impacted. We're going to keep building great games and tech that have defined us for the past 35 years, and we're looking forward to seeing you at QuakeCon this August. According to The Verge reporter Tom Warren, id is now in the early stages of developing a new game, which fits with Xbox's mandate of focusing on its biggest franchises like Doom and Wolfenstein. Responding to the layoffs on Friday, id Software co-founder John Carmack, who hasn't been with id for a long time, said that he was saddened by the news, but conceded that he was struggling to feel anger without knowing the full details. He said, quote, I've been trying to find something meaningful to say about id Software's layoffs, he wrote. My quote, Microsoft will probably be a good steward of the brand statement isn't aging well, something he said in the past. And this is certainly going to dampen the mood of the founder reunion at QuakeCon next month. He continued, I'm saddened, but I can't muster anger or outrage over it. I don't have access to the books, but I suspect that id was a marginal business from Microsoft's perspective. I believe the reports that Microsoft's revenue have been carrying several other studios, he added, referencing claims in the Bloomberg article. To continue being produced long-term, games need to succeed, not just be beloved. Games are competing with every other option for spending your leisure, time, and money, and the competition is brutal. Carmack said that he couldn't rule out the possibility that the executives are idiots, but added that he felt shouldn't be your default belief. Quote, I don't think that there were any obvious paths that would have doubled the revenue from id games. Could they have gotten more with a different pricing strategy? Could they have created more things for fans to buy? Could they have cost effectively marketed in a way that reached more players that would have loved to have bought the games? Could they have changed the game design to broaden the appeal for more players without alienating existing ones? Could they have produced the games at a lower cost, faster, or cheaper? I really don't know. The game isn't over yet. I just hope the studio rallies, though. Former id Software studio Tim Willits replied, you said it well, John. 4 years after id was sold to Bethesda, parent ZeniMax Carmack left id Software in 2013 to join Oculus as their CTO. In 2022, he left Oculus to work on his artificial general intelligence startup, Keen Technologies. For a lot of people, that alone will be enough information for them to write Carmack off, but I would implore you maybe not to, because he is one of the most important minds in gaming, especially if you like Xbox-style first-person M-rated shooting games. Let's continue on with some more context for Doom before we really get into our conversation, saying that from VGC, id Software pitched a new Perfect Dark game and a John Wick-style original IP before it was hit with a significant staff cut this week, according to a report. A new report from GamesBeat explores that the events behind the scenes with comments from multiple former employees. According to the report, id Software was vulnerable to cuts. It was between major projects, having shipped Doom the Dark Ages this last week, the new DLC. It's claimed that id had pitched various projects in the time since the full Dark Ages game released last year, including multiple original IP, but none were greenlit, and the new CEO Asha Sharma has since pushed for a company-wide refocus on biggest brands: Halo, Gears, Forza, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Quake, Wolfenstein. Notably, id said that they have pitched a game based on the Perfect Dark franchise. A planned reboot by now closed Xbox Studio The Initiative was canceled last year, but it reportedly made concept art for a concept of their own. Doom series creator Hugo Martin is also said to have pitched an original IP inspired by John Wick, codenamed Fury. The project allegedly featured elements of a sci-fi noir and Louisiana and Chicago gangsters with a concept called Gun Fu, which combined gunplay with martial arts. I fucking love the idea of Gun Fu. Fuck me. That game sounds cool. Another rejected original IP was a Western-style robot game. Fuck it. I changed my mind. I want this game now. It's claimed with a focus on survival. It is also said to have pitched multiplayer and co-op concepts for Doom, as well as more DLC. I think the multiplayer co-op concepts is probably a bad idea for Doom, but I don't know. Maybe do the fucking Quake game that everyone was waiting on. I don't know. All right, so let's take a breather here from the reading and talk about id Software. I should have taken notes here because I think now my brain is scattered and I'm just not going to be able to have a coherent conversation on this, but just trying to say stuff. Here we go, off the cuff. This is the crux of my situation, my grievance with this. First of all, we don't really know at this point in time the size of id Software between their Texas team and their second studio that's in Germany. Between the two, we don't really know the full staff size of id Software and what percentage of the staff was let go. So it is frustrating that we're getting some conflicting reports where some people are saying, oh, they're relegated to a support team. They don't even have enough people left to make a game. They're probably just going to do, I don't know, maybe some fucking support work for Halo or Call of Duty at this point. Fuck me. Oh, in id Tech, you can forget about id Tech. They're going to be adopting Unreal Engine 5 and everything Xbox is going to be Unreal Engine 5 and id Tech is dead. That would piss me off, but that's just one perspective. Some people are saying, coming straight from the horse's mouth, actually, we've reduced in size, but we're like the same size we were when we made the first Doom game of this new trilogy just 10 years ago. And also we have enough people here that we can make games and we can continue to work on id Tech. And so it's like, yeah, who are you going to believe? The guy who's been laying people off left and right, who's trying to get you to not worry too much about it, or the guy who was just laid off who has a bone to pick? I don't know. There's a lot of bias in both ways. I'm not really here to pick a side. I'm just here to say clearly we just don't have all the information. But that said, I don't think anything really justifies the layoffs. It's kind of shitty to do it no matter what. But let's kind of focus and key down on this a little bit with id Software. I think you have a principled matter with id Software way more than any studio you own. I think Xbox had a chance, especially in the Xbox One generation and onward, to say, yeah, this is a console brand that was built on the back of Halo, but it doesn't have to always be that way. Halo can take a break. Halo can stay in the fold or maybe just end. Maybe Halo can be over. But Xbox can continue and do new and different things. But Xbox doubled down on Halo in the Xbox 360, tripled down on Halo in the Xbox One generation, and even now that they own Call of Duty, they still insist on quadrupling down on Halo. They just won't give up on Halo. And listen, as someone who loves Halo more than he loves his own dog that he doesn't have, I'm okay with it because I love Halo. I want Halo. But here's the thing. There is no Halo without id Software. There is no Xbox without id Software. Xbox is the home console spin-off of what was happening in the PC scene of gaming culture. PlayStation comes from the orientation of gaming that was created and popularized by Nintendo, if you go back to history enough. And you go back to Nintendo's history, and that is, of course, a very Japanese company that comes from a very different perspective and approach on gaming, and everything before that really comes kind of from the arcade scene. But Xbox, one of its unique things, is a very authentically American company, for better and for worse, certainly for worse sometimes, more often than not. Let's be honest, certainly for worse. One of the things that is so authentically Xbox, though, is that Xbox is really a brand that is built by a computer software company that is heavily influenced and spiritually driven, at least in its conception in early days, from the foundation of PC gaming. And you just don't have hardcore PC video games without Doom, without Wolfenstein, without Quake, without id Software. I mean, id Software is such a fundamental game studio, really not just for Xbox and for PC gaming, but for all of gaming. What is the most popular game every fucking year? It doesn't matter how much you pretend you hate it, how much you pretend it sucks, even though it doesn't. It's Call of Duty, no matter what. Next year's Call of Duty could be about Barney the dinosaur getting lip filler and transgender surgery, and you fucking MAGA Republicans will still buy that thing by the millions. It doesn't matter. People love Call of Duty, and there's no Call of Duty without Doom. id Software is a very, very important studio, and I understand, a lot of the figureheads that formed this studio 30, 40 years ago are not the people there today. Although there are a lot of people still at id who are from a long ass time ago. But if you as Xbox are going to acquire and take ownership of id Software, you have a very, very big responsibility to do right by that studio. Very big. There is very serious video game history. Unfortunately, in the world of video games, people don't have the respect for companies like id Software that they have for companies like Nintendo. And I'm not trying to say that Nintendo and id Software are exact one-to-ones in terms of importance. No, it's not the case. But id Software is a very, very, very fundamental, very important, critical company to the history of games. And for you to just so flippantly be like, well, we mismanaged you and your game from last year didn't sell that well because we forced it on our stupid fucking subscription service that's killing everything. And so now you guys have to pay the price. It's like, that's bad guy Microsoft. I can't really find a way to spin that. I can't defend you on that. That's just straight up bad guy Microsoft. And remember what we said about Obsidian and how it's like, this is one of your studios that actually put out games over the past decade, while all your other fucking studios were too busy fondling their tiny penises and fucking up Halo in the back corner. Like, id Software put out Doom 2016, and then you acquired them, and immediately afterward, and then right before you acquired them, they put out Doom not the Dark Ages, Doom Eternal, and then you acquired them and they just kept trucking right along into Doom the Dark Ages. I mean, these guys, they didn't stop. They just went boom, boom, boom. And all along, one thing that's remained consistent along with these Doom games being excellent is that id Tech Software is this immaculate gaming engine that needs to be seized and applied across a bevy of Xbox titles. The fact that Halo is moving away from a proprietary engine into Unreal shows that people in a leadership level at Xbox are fucking stupid, because Halo should be running off of id Tech. That's how you fix Xbox Halo's engine issues. And the fact that you got all these teams like adopting Unreal Engine left and right. Like, the only Xbox first party game that I see and I go, well, yeah, it should be on Unreal Engine, it's like maybe Gears of War, and that's just because that shit's was originally made by Epic Games. But like, other than that, it's like you're looking for ways to cut out middlemen. You're looking for ways to cut out other companies that you don't want to be reliant upon and save money and maybe even make some money while you're at it. It's like, maybe use that incredible proprietary engine that you now own in id Tech and fucking use it on your goddamn games, you stupid simpletons. But no, just go ahead and lay them off. And then make a statement saying how you need to double down on games like Halo, Gears, Forza, and I don't know, Doom. It doesn't make sense. How are you going to tell Obsidian to go make a Fallout game and then lay a bunch of them off? How are you going to go tell id Software to go make a bunch of fucking Doom and Wolfenstein content and lay a bunch of them off? How are you going to become less dependent on other companies' technology and resources if you have the people who can give you something like id Tech and you go, fuck you, you're fired, let's go do Unreal Engine? This is just purely a bad guy Microsoft move. And I've seen this said already a million times before surrounding this story, just on the internet and through YouTube videos and podcasts. And I have to agree / double down on this sentiment, which is, listen, I don't think Asha is the worst thing that happened to Xbox. I think Xbox needed her as like a Hail Mary. Like, she's either going to save this shit or finally put it to bed. I don't know which one yet, but I'm not team fuck Asha. I'm say give her 2 years. Let's see what happens. Let's see how things play out. And I've actually liked a good amount of things she's already done, but I gotta be honest, this decision in particular with id Software screams, "Hi, I'm the new Xbox CEO. I come from AI and stupid fucking app based background, and I am all business. And I know absolutely nothing about the video games industry, and I'm not qualified to be making the decision that I'm making right now." And it's not to say she's not qualified to run Xbox. It's not to say she's not qualified to make a lot of the decisions she's made, but she was clearly not informed enough and not qualified and not culturally and historically educated enough on the situation to make this call. This is a bad call. It's okay. Good people make mistakes. Good decision makers make bad decisions, but this is a bad decision. Objectively, there's nothing to defend here. So yeah, this one pisses me off a lot. But it does remain complicated where it's like, okay, well, let's tie it back to what we said earlier. Remember, Bethesda seemed to be in some kind of financial funk before Xbox bought them, and then Xbox didn't really do anything to change that culture. So it is conceivable that Doom the Dark Ages was a pretty big financial, not flop, but like a very, very, very underwhelming financial performer. And Osh is looking at the numbers and going, yeah, who gives a shit if the critics like Doom? This game isn't doing it for us. This team isn't doing it for us. Something has to change. And even though I want the robot Western game, and I want the John Wick style game, and I want the Kung Fu gun shooting game called Gun Fu to come out, I think those games sound fucking awesome. I doubt that those are the things that are going to turn it around for id Software. And id Software has proven that they kind of suck at taking Doom and making it a big multiplayer thing, so they probably got to stop trying on that. But I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I can certainly tell you that laying off people at id Software, gutting this team, and putting a team of this provenance and this historical significance in a precarious situation is short-sighted, ill-informed, and frankly, just honestly reckless. Like if you care at all about preserving the gaming history and important figures and teams within the industry, I think this is just a reckless and very ill-informed decision to have made. They got to figure out what to do next. I don't know. Like I really do appreciate John Carmack's statements, about like, hey, I can't feign to be upset about it, but I wonder, could they have done this for cheaper? Could they have sold the game at a different price point? Could they have done more to make the game appeal to a wider audience more? It's like, I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of interesting stuff to tackle there, right? I do think there's something to the point of charging $70 for Doom the Dark Ages is kind of a bad idea, especially if you're going to throw it on Game Pass and give everyone every reason not to buy the game. I agree with that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Doom the Dark Ages is a motherfucking badass video game from a motherfucking badass team that has a history of making motherfucking badass video games. And you fucked up here by gutting them. I don't know, man. I probably more to say about this. This whole discussion has the makings of one of those podcasts where I'm going to hit end record, edit it, upload it, and then immediately realize 75 things I wish I had brought up during the podcast. But oh well, so be it. I'm sure we will talk about this more and more and more throughout the year. This is one that really irks me a lot, especially as I'm playing the DLC Revelations for Doom the Dark Ages right now. And I really don't want to do what I've been playing this segment this week because one, I haven't been playing too many video games, and two, this week's episode is just not about that. We're in too important of a discussion to be goofing off like that. And I just think it sucks extra hard when you're playing their last effort as a team and realizing, wow, these guys just have a special sauce that no one else is capable of. And you're just fucking throwing away like trash. That's really disappointing. All right. Before I start losing my ability to think, let's do a little intermission story here. I got nothing to add to this. I just want to read what's happening and then we'll move on. From VGC, one of the lead developers behind Xbox's backwards compatibility initiative, a 37-year veteran at Microsoft, has been laid off. Kevin LaChapelle, who until this week served as VP of Xbox Platform, took to LinkedIn to confirm he's been laid off as part of Microsoft's widespread structure. So that's fucking sick. Thank you for being a huge part of the thing that injected life into the Xbox One generation at a time where it desperately needed some shot in the arm. Thank you for helping give Xbox some goodwill and some platform differentiation at a time where it desperately needed some. Thank you for 37 years of helping this company and this brand succeed. Go fuck yourself, I guess, is the message. But yeah, he's been working on cloud gaming initiatives and a lot of things in the years since. And yeah, I mean, just fuck it, you know. You're only as good as your last project, or it's what you've done for me lately, not what you've done or whatever. All the corporate bullshit things are for when they justify kicking you to the curb. And so here's someone who's been kicked to the curb. All right, let's talk about this. So the cuts affect more at ZeniMax, at Bethesda ZeniMax. So let's talk about Elder Scrolls Online, ZeniMax Online. Xbox has laid off more than 200 workers at Elder Scrolls Online Studio ZeniMax. It's been confirmed. The state of Maryland, where ZeniMax is based, has published a WARN notice confirming that Microsoft has cut 213 employees in ZeniMax Online and a further 166 employees at ZeniMax Media. It's not clear how many ZeniMax Online have survived Xbox's layoffs, but one employee claimed on social media this week that about half of its active developers working on content had been laid off. A former Elder Scrolls Online developer reacted angrily to the news of the cuts, writing on Twitter, "I'm just so angry people will never know the blood, sweat, and tears that went into making Elder Scrolls Online, or how we basically funded other failing projects while we never got enough resources to really keep up with our release cadence. The team deserves so much better." Stop there. That's interesting. Talk about, games like Doom kind of underperforming commercially, but doing well critically. We talk about games like Wolfenstein doing the same. We talk about things like that, and then we've known in the background that things like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76 are just kind of quietly trucking along, making shit tons of money, serving their niche audience. This is something worth noting if we're talking about how, ZeniMax and Bethesda have been kind of in a little bit of a flat or possibly downward trajectory over the past decade or so with their revenue when it comes to games that aren't called Elder Scrolls or Fallout. So worth noting. He continues on, "I've been gone for a while, but talking to people today and realizing that there's really no one left, no one changing it now makes my heart ache. For the people, our game, who we were as a team, as a studio, this is a serious loss, and I don't think people know how much. This is at least the second round of major layoffs for ZeniMax Online, which suffered in last year's round of layoffs. Last summer, boss Matt Firer resigned from the studio following a previous round of sweeping layoffs at Microsoft, which saw thousands of people lose their jobs and multiple projects canceled, including an unannounced ZeniMax Online title, which was reported by Bloomberg to be called Project Blackbird. It was a third-person online looter shooter set in a sci-fi universe, and apparently Matt Booty and Phil Spencer were obsessed with this game. They thought it was phenomenal, and people working on it thought that this was gonna be a fucking smash hit game. And then it got canned along with the closure of the initiative and the cancellation of Perfect Dark and all this stuff, because just fuck it. Just why? Let's pump shit tons of money into these games and then cancel them before they ever even get to see the light of day. And then I guess just bitch and moan about how our business isn't healthy as we continue to not give games a chance to breathe. Let's continue on. Bethesda Union confirms Xbox layoffs. Blah, 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 blah. Bethesda Game Studios union workers are planning to protest outside of its 4 studio locations next week in response to layoffs of nearly 450 of its members across ZeniMax. Bethesda, one BGS and CWA affiliates, Bethesda Game Studios Union, are planning to protest outside Bethesda offices in Montreal, Rockville, Maryland, and Austin on July 15th, which is the day I'm recording. The protests follow 440 union member jobs cut across Bethesda and ZeniMax this week. Quote, "We are going to be demanding preferential transfers to force Microsoft to place affected Bethesda Game Studios workers into open roles across Microsoft and Xbox. First, strong severance and extended healthcare to ensure no one is financially abandoned, as well as recall rights to ensure our laid off members are the first ones hired back when Bethesda Game Studios expands." Yes, and that's a when, because you can't make shit like Fallout and Elder Scrolls and Doom and all this stuff if you lay off all the people that make these games. I don't have too much to say about this one other than I just want to note, man, and let me preface, I have so much respect for people who want to, especially because this is an American, right and tradition, that if you truly feel a certain way about something, if you truly feel like your rights are being infringed upon, or that you're being treated unfairly, or that your voice is being silenced by a government or a corporation that just has more control and more power and more authority than you ever will, then you have the right, especially in this country, to stand up and protest. You can protest for your rights. You can protest for what you perceive to be wrongdoings. And I think that's a beautiful American tradition that I will always encourage and support those who engage in. But I just got to be honest, and this is probably my deeply jaded fucking ass, but I don't know, man. When I see, especially when it comes to business stuff, maybe less so, it's a different thing if you're talking about like protests for like political ideology and like ICE murdering people and getting away with it, and like police brutality. Like maybe that's a whole different conversation, but more so as pertains to like workers and employers, corporations and stuff. It's not that you shouldn't protest. You should. If that's what's on your heart and that's what you feel like you should do to try and draw attention to your cause, that's great. It's just, I feel so bad for these people and so defeated when I realize that it's like, I'm not trying to be negative, but let's be honest. Protesting isn't going to do shit. At the end of the day, it's David versus Goliath, and we live in a world that will take Goliath over David 9,000 times out of 10. I don't know, man. It's like, that's cool that there are unions out here fighting for healthcare rights and opportunities to be brought back into the fold and all these things in an effort to try and minimize the damage dealt. But I just don't think that it fucking matters. I think Xbox is a soulless, faceless, mega conglomerate of a corporation, and they make the decisions they need to make shareholders and investors happy. They want to watch the green line go up. And if it comes at the expense of your livelihood and your security and your well-being, then fuck you. And there ain't no government or person or savior who's going to come and fight for you, no matter what you fucking do. And I know that sounds about as jaded and tired as it gets, but I honestly, I'm sorry. It's just like, this is what I've observed in my lifetime. This is the world that I have seen unfold before my eyes, and I've just never seen it get better. I've only seen it get worse. So I just see this. I'm like, yeah, good for you. Exercise your right to protest. You're not getting anything out of it. Don't expect anything good to come out of this. But more power to you for doing it. I do think you're a better person than I am for doing it. I don't know. I'm just over here being all doomer. But anyway, let's continue on. We got an update on Compulsion. So from VGC, Compulsion Games has made the request for partner studios to work with after leaving Xbox. Compulsion, which was acquired in 2018 by Xbox, was one of the studios affected by the major reset, but rather than being shut down entirely, they negotiated a deal to leave Xbox and return to being an independent developer. The deal also enabled the studio to retain the rights to their previous IP. Contrast, We Happy Few, South of Midnight, the latter of which won a number of awards, including Games for Impact at the Game Awards, Outstanding Achievement nomination at the DICE Awards, and the new intellectual property at the BAFTA Awards. Now the developer has posted a message on their LinkedIn page reaching out to other studios offering collaborative work on any projects they may need partnering for. Quote, with Compulsion Games returning to its roots as an independent developer, we're expanding our opportunities to collaborate with studios across the games and entertainment industry. We invite partners to leverage their talent, the talent and creativity of the award-winning team behind South of Midnight, a game that was honored at the BAFTA Awards, Peabody Award, and 7 Canadian Game Awards, and recognized on multiple Best Games of 25 lists. With deep experience in creating acclaimed original IP, we bring an artistry, technical expertise, and collaborative approach to every project. We are excited to support the development, memorable experiences, and entertain players around the world. This one makes me sad because basically how this reads is, Xbox let us loose because there's no fucking value in our IP and they don't give a shit. So they let us loose as an independent developer so that they could have a good guy Xbox PR slant to it. But at the end of the day, they don't see any value in hanging on to South of Midnight or We Happy Few or anything because these games don't sell shit. Nobody gives a shit about these games. And now we're here to say, hey, we got some awards for, doing the thing, making an inclusive game a couple of years ago. Please, if you need some support work on your game you're working on, we can help. We can be a support dev. We lost the autonomy to make our own games, but fuck it. We just want to stay in business. Please hire us so we can do support work. That's how that reads to me. And it honestly makes me very fucking sad, because basically Compulsion Games in a matter of days has gone from Xbox first party to change. Can you spare some change? And it's heartbreaking. It's I don't know, man. Hopefully they land on their feet. But listen, I'll be honest, and I say this as someone who likes Contrast, as someone who liked South of Midnight. I agree South of Midnight is far from the game it needed to be to have massive mainstream success, and that there was a lot with the game that could have been better. But I personally liked the game a lot. It worked for me. It resonated with me. And I say this as someone like that. This is a team that has nothing going for it, and they have nothing on their resume that's going to get them past this hard time. So, I mean, it was kind of spun at one point like, oh, maybe they have investors. It sounds like they don't have investors. So that's really sad. But also who's investing right now, whatever. I don't know. So let's, with that, put a pin in it on all the layoffs, the Xbox purging and everything. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to say about these topics in the weeks ahead as more and more continues to come out, and as Xbox continues to axe people, because we know we got 1,600 more lives to ruin over the next year. So there's that. But we do have some other Xbox news stories to get into before we wrap up this week's show, starting with some Halo news. That's right. All right, this is relayed by Windows Central, but originally reported by YouTuber Rebs Gaming, who has kind of become the de facto guy for Halo-related games reporting. And he shared in his latest YouTube video allegations that studio lead at Halo Studios, Pierre Heinz, has antagonized staff while also being reportedly referred to HR multiple times for his apparent behavior. Although, from documents received at Windows Central, at least one of the complaints were not upheld by Microsoft upon investigation. In Reb's YouTube video, he quotes one source, quote, "I was verbally blasted by Pierre. It's emotional and shocking, and to this day, I cannot believe Microsoft HR and Microsoft Legal did not give me the time of day. Pierre literally told me to get the fuck out of the studio. It traumatized me." Former Halo art director Glenn Israel has gone on the record previously as feeling as though he was retaliated against by Pierre Heinz for raising concerns that Heinz had arbitrarily blacklisted other potential hiring candidates over personal issues beyond the public reports already out there. I spoke to Windows Central, spoke to over half a dozen staffers, past and present, who had expressed working with Heinz, even though they could not verify some of the information from Reb's video. Other criticisms were passed on and praise of Heinz. So it seems like there's a fair number of people who maybe have some beef with this guy. Like he's not cultivating the best work culture, where people feel free to express themselves and like their voices really matter. So some suggest that present-day Xbox producers and managers refuse to engage with Heinz without supervisors, owing to feeling antagonized and undermined by him. So a lot of people are feeling like this guy's ruining the studio. We got to get him out of here. Emails sent to Microsoft HR that alleged bullying on the part of Pierre, criticizing his treatment of staff. However, others did not offer mitigating comments. One defended Heinz, emphasizing his passion and dedication for the product, and suggested that he's not necessarily ill-intentioned, but sports a complete lack of tactfulness and people skills, in their opinion. Hey, that's kind of sounds like me. But yeah, listen, I'm not going to pass judgment on this guy. We don't know all the facts. I don't know really anything about this fucking guy, but it does seem like he is ruffling feathers, and like there does seem to be a lot of like, I don't know, cultural just doubt and dissatisfaction among staff at Halo Studios. It seems like it's been that way for a long time. I don't know what to say, man. I'm assuming that once this Halo Campaign Evolved comes out next week, that Xbox can then turn the eye to this team and figure out who needs to get laid off and how they need to restructure over here. Because the reporting is that whatever multiplayer project or some big team battle project or some Halo MMO or something that was being worked on, and that all these projects have been canceled. So like Halo is just as it has been for the longest time at this point, just been in the absolute shitter. And so it just seems like things aren't getting better and that there's some bad work culture going on over there. So Halo continuing to be a mess, but what else is new? And then let's talk about this Call of Duty Black Ops thing. So I think I briefly mentioned this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, but Activision decided to release Black Ops 1 and 2 on PS4 and 5, but not Xbox, even though they're already available via backwards compatibility. It was a way to just bring these games forward to PlayStation, as PlayStation 3 is a piece of shit that doesn't do backwards compatibility, or the games aren't backwards compatible on modern PlayStation consoles. And so they needed to port these games to PS4 in order to make them backwards compatible on PS4 and 5. And this came out this past week, and they're doing incredibly well financially, but people are already bitching and moaning because the games are kind of broken due to hackers, because they ported these games forward and basically just gave it the same broken servers that Xbox and PC users have been dealing with on these games for the longest time at this point. So players are being inundated with lobbies where players are running exploits, instantly maxing out prestiges, everything unlocked. They're able to zap people back down to level 1 and take away all their progress and just like fly around the lobbies and fuck up the game. Basically, if you ever played an old Call of Duty, you know what I'm talking about. The games get overrun by hackers once they're X amount of years old, and this is no different after just being released on PlayStation. So this is causing a lot of consternation and frustration online as people are like, what the fuck? How did you release these games? And now there's just hackers everywhere. So a little bit of I feel bad to the PlayStation players who bought these games, but a little bit happy to see Activision eat some shit and Xbox eat some shit on this, because this is horribly handled. Clearly, you should have just made some kind of remastered Black Ops 1 and 2 package for Xbox Series and PS5. That's like remastered visuals and all new crossplay lobbies with new modern day anti-cheat infrastructure and things like that. That would have been fucking phenomenal, because who doesn't love Black Ops 1 and 2, some of the absolute greatest Call of Duty games of all time. But just thought I would throw that out there, because everything about this situation sucks so much. Just kind of leaving Xbox out and letting this be a PlayStation thing in the first place, and then seeing it go wrong even for PlayStation people. It's just a really bad look. I saw a great meme that summed it up perfectly. It was one of those like Wojak memes, and it was like the fucking like alternative girl, and she's like kissing like this one dude, and the one dude she's kissing is PlayStation, and she's Call of Duty, and then there's a third dude, and he's in the background sitting on a chair watching. And he's Xbox, and the girl's like, "You sure about this, babe?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And Xbox is just watching Call of Duty make out with PlayStation 4. This is exactly that. That's the perfect way to sum up what this looks like. But looks like she's also getting some fucking herpes while she's making out with PlayStation due to these hackers. So I don't know what they were thinking you just port these games over and call it a day. Clearly, you can't rely on these old type servers to hold up in today's world of hacking. Just stupid and lazy, honestly. All right, Xbox Game Pass has reportedly declined by 4 million users since Microsoft last shared subscriber numbers. That's according to both Bloomberg and Wall Street Journal, which claim that Game Pass currently has around 30 million subscribers, down from 34 from 2024 when last reported. According to court documents published during the legal battles around the Activision Blizzard acquisition, Microsoft had expected Game Pass to have around 77 million subscribers by this point in its long strategy. However, as acknowledged by Xbox new CEO Asha Sharma, Game Pass has not grown at the pace that Microsoft expected, announcing significant layoffs across the industry. Sharma specifically highlighted Game Pass as an area that the company had underperformed, saying, quote, "To grow, we bet on Game Pass multi-platform and a broad portfolio of content." She said on a note to staff, "While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected, as that happened with our core business weakening, and we added more teams, more investments, and more time, hoping for a better outcome," according to comments made by Xbox Chief Strategy Matthew Ball, his Chief Strategy Officer. Last month, Matthew Ball said that Xbox subscription services lost millions of subscribers following a price rise last year, which was partially reversed in April. I love to see it, dude. I fucking hate Game Pass. I am so anti-Game Pass at this point. I just want to see Game Pass turn into what PlayStation Plus is. Fucking keep the Game Pass name, or better yet, call it Xbox Live. And you can have your 3 subscription tiers. And what Xbox Live ought to be is, hey, you subscribe to the most expensive tier. You get Xbox games a year after they are released. They come to this service, plus a handful of third-party games and indie games that come and go from time to time. But day one Xbox games are no mas. If you want to fucking play a game that just came out, you should take your $70 goddamn and put them down and support these teams so that we don't have to fucking lay people off for blinking twice. It's just, dude, Game Pass is bad. Time to cut your losses. I really hope that is the long-term. You can't do that overnight. You just can't. It would be too much of an issue. But I really do hope that is the long-term plan for Game Pass with Asha Sharma. She's not a fucking idiot to how financially stupid Game Pass is and how much is never going to happen. And that her plan is eventually to try and basically reverse day one Game Pass, because I think day one Game Pass is pretty much single-handedly killing Xbox. So maybe do something about that for once. Maybe Doom the Dark Ages could have sold better if day one Game Pass wasn't there to fuck it all up. But that's just a crazy thought from someone in the background who's just stating the obvious. But anyway, let's move on with some wrap-up stories. I think we got two more here. I don't really know what to make of this one because I'm not smart with these things. I don't have brain power for these things, but Xbox CEO Asha Sharma has been named as an advisor to the U.S. Federal Reserve for productivity and jobs. Federal Reserve is a central banking system in the United States. They lie and say that money can't be printed and that Americans have to be poor so that people like your fucking precious Elon Musk can be a trillionaire while we let working class people die of cancer and we let ICE murder people in the streets and pretend like it's just a Tuesday. The Federal Reserve is a central banking system. What am I saying? Oh yeah, on Thursday, it announced that leadership and objectives of its first 5 task forces established to advance the conduct of monetary policy. Notably, Sharma was named one of the 3 advisors of the Productivity and Jobs Task Force, with the Federal Reserve saying, we'll be assessing, among other things, the impact of AI. According to the new release, the task force will look at the economic impact of the new general purpose technologies, including AI, to inform the Federal Reserve's policy judgments. So this seems more like, hey, you have a good history of being successful in AI. Can you help us advise on this board? Has less to do with her work in Xbox, but support by Federal Reserve staff. The task force will operate independently with a mandate to follow the evidence, provide candid feedback, and produce rigorous findings of the Federal Open Market Committee. It's unclear how the appointments were made. Sharma is the only active CEO named of the 5 task force members. However, the former CEO of Walmart, Doug McMillon, will advise on data. Prior to becoming Xbox CEO early in the year, Sharma served as president of Microsoft's core AI product. She worked alongside Facebook as VP Product of Engineering and Messenger of Instagram and Direct Products. Who gives a shit? Federal Reserve's commitment to price stability and maximum employment is unwavering, as our resolve to pursue the mandate with rigor. Oh yeah, I really believe that, Chairman Kevin Warsh. I really believe the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government is doing everything they can to keep unemployment high and to keep pricing stability strong. Yeah, I believe you. Anyway, I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way seeing that she's on any government board and that she is in bed with one of the biggest corporations in the world, as well as serving on a government board, as well as somehow managing that while running Xbox. The whole thing rubs me the wrong way, but I'm a stupid peon and I don't really know why. Not to say that there's a conflict of interest necessarily, just to say that I don't fucking know. I don't like this whole run your government like a business and lean on business people who are all about making money to try and learn how to fix a fucking broken government. Maybe get money out of politics. Maybe that will do something for once. For goddamn sake, please. I wonder if only we ever had a candidate who ran on such an idea. Anyway, let's wrap it up with this. Glenn Schofield. This has nothing to do with Xbox, kind of, maybe. The creator of Dead Space and the Callisto Protocol most recently has announced he's retiring after years of being a game developer. Began in 1991, made licensed games like Barbie before moving to THQ. And then really got well known in the 2000s when he was at EA, worked on Lord of the Rings games, but really came into his own with the Dead Space series, which he's most known for, and then moved on, did some Call of Duty work, and then moved on to Crafton and did Callisto Protocol. Now, Glenn Schofield is a pretty notable name in the games industry. What's really sad is if you really read into this, it's kind of sad the way he's getting out of it, because he was, after the Callisto Protocol, trying to find funding for a new AAA game and projects and trying to do a multitude of different gaming related things, and everything just kind of fell flat. I think the guy kind of got tired of trying and said, fuck it, I'm old, I'm rich, let's just be done here. is kind of hanging up his hat, which is just sad. It seems like for a guy who's had such a successful career, it just seems like his career is kind of ending on a whimper just due to the games industry being in a shit place right now. But, you know, obviously reading this, not to be negative about it, just to say, you know, thank you, Glenn Schofield. Thank you for Dead Space. Thank you for all the great games you've helped bring to fruition, and enjoy your retirement. Of course, much deserved. You're probably pretty fucking wealthy, so should be fine. But we will miss your contributions to this medium, as you and your teams over the years have done some phenomenal shit. So just thought I'd pay some respects by shouting him out. And that's really going to do it for everything this week, guys. I'm going to skip over everything and just go straight to the comments. We don't really have many comments at all. We only got 3 really to pull from today. So do the transition. We're done with the news. That's it for what I've been eating. Here's what I've been playing. That's it for what I've been playing. And now time for the best last segment, the comments, the youtube.com, Xbox On Podcast. Click on the latest episode, drop a comment. You can be told dickhead. That's okay. That's fine. It's your prerogative. And then you can be nice and ask a thoughtful question. That would be nice. It would add to the stimulating nature of this conversation, this podcast, which we currently don't have, but maybe one day we might acquire. Starting us off, Cronky writes in with the first one, says, I don't think we will ever agree on the necessity of layoffs. Changing direction doesn't mean the need to lay people off. These companies developed games based on the leadership direction that they were given. You can't let Ninja Theory make Hellblade 2 and then say, well, Xbox can't invest 8 years of development into a game like that. They need to make heavier hitters. Obviously, I agree, but you can't lay off people because of that. You need to tell the studio that the new expectations aren't what the new expectations are now, and then you can change directions. If they can't meet those, then you can look at layoffs or selling or whatever. You seem to think that because Microsoft made bad investments, the layoffs make sense. That is horrible. No, Cronky. I think you and I are like 98% in agreement on this, but where we differ is that maybe I'm, playing too much into the conventions of how business works here, but dude, it's just the way I see it is like this. I agree completely. Like, you buy Ninja Theory and you're Phil Spencer and the year's 2018 and you say, hey, Ninja Theory, we're super excited about you joining Xbox. Pitch us some ideas. What are you guys working on? And they're like, okay, well, last year we put out Hellblade. Oh yeah, I played that. That game was cool. Okay. Yeah. So we put out Hellblade last year. People loved it. It was a critical hit. It did really well considering like 40 people made it over the course of like 3 years. We sold a couple million units. It was quite profitable. We really have a great idea for a sequel. We want to make Hellblade 2. And then Phil Spencer goes, well, Hellblade felt like a really good one-off project, and it's kind of small. It's not to say that it's not a great game. It's just to say, we're Xbox. We're trying to aim big. We're trying to make Forza. We're trying to make Halo. We're not trying to make smaller projects. So what do you guys have that's like something big? Do you have an idea, like a pipe dream? Like, oh, if we had X amount of dollars, if we had X amount of staff, if we had X amount of years, we could make this a reality. Like, what's that game? And that's what you tell Ninja Theory. And then Ninja Theory goes, oh, okay. All right. Give us 3 months. We'll put something together. And then Ninja Theory comes back and they're like, okay, it's whatever it is. It ends up being the next Elden Ring or whatever. And then Phil Spencer goes, that's fucking awesome. Okay. You got 2 years to put together a rough concept. Let's see what you got. We're excited. Go staff up. Go fuck off in England. Eat your fucking biscuits and crumpets and all the rest, and let us know what you got in 2 years. And that's how you could have run Ninja Theory. And then we could have gotten a game worth a damn from Ninja Theory. And then maybe Ninja Theory could have made a splash by making some super awesome AAA, high quality, narrative driven, badass third person action game that's like, I don't know, that's like Devil May Cry meets fucking The Last of Us or something. I don't know. Maybe they could have done that. But instead, Xbox said, what would you like to do, Ninja Theory? And Ninja Theory's like, well, we really like to waste $1 trillion and like 3,000 people just kind of jerking our dicks, making Hellblade look a little prettier than it looked before, and basically retreading the same goddamn territory with a sequel that nobody asked for. And then Phil's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's announce a whole fucking next generation console with this stupid game. And then we'll take another 5 years to make the fucking game. And then when it comes out, it will just fart out on Game Pass with a whimper, and then nobody will care about it. And then it'll go on clearance sale, and they're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So this is the reality, is we agree that Xbox mismanaged Hellblade. We agree that Hellblade 2 was not the game. But where we disagree is, just because last Xbox leadership allowed this poor management to happen doesn't mean that new Xbox leadership can go to investors, can go to Satya, can go to shareholders and go, well, we have this catalog, this roster of teams, Compulsion and Ninja Theory and the like, and while none of them have put out a game worth a damn, it's not really their fault. It's really the last guy's fault, because he allowed them to fuck around and do this shit, when in reality he really should have kind of pushed them to make like bigger, better games. But because he allowed them to do that, that's why, Double Fine and Compulsion and Ninja Theory have underperformed, is because they've kind of been allowed to hang themselves. So give us 8 more years and we'll turn these studios around. We'll get them putting out some AAA heavy hitters. Don't worry about that. In the world of business, you can't say that. You can't say, sorry, we fucked up the last 8 years. We're going to fix the next 8 years. Just give us 8 more years to do it. I get it. It's like, it sucks because it's one of those things where it's like, you had your chance and you blew it. It's kind of like, when you're in high school and you're a fucking stupid ass guy and you're dating a girl and then she breaks up with you and you're like, oh, give me another chance. I can change. It's like, yeah, maybe you can change. Maybe you can address the problems that girl had with you. But the thing is, you did the thing you did already and nobody has the time to give you another chance to make it right. It's like, once you kind of make your bed, you got to lay in it. And I hesitate and hate to make this next point because I know how this can be used against me, and I really hope you don't take it the wrong way, but I have to say it. And let me just preface, I really love Double Fine. I really like Double Fine a lot. I thought Keeper was excellent. I'm sad that Double Fine is not part of Team Xbox anymore, but even though Phil Spencer and Matt Booty, especially Matt Booty, the buck stops with them, they're at fault here. If anyone is to blame, it's those people for letting this happen. Doesn't it seem somewhat reasonable to think that if you're Double Fine and Xbox gives you fuck you money and Xbox brings you on board to Team Xbox and says, here's carte blanche, go do whatever the hell you want, don't you think you should maybe recoup as a team at Double Fine and go, okay, we are in the big leagues now. We really got to impress. We got to put together a game that's like going to be the game we could never have afforded or had the opportunity to build when we were independent. We got to really impress our new owners by putting something super special together. I mean, something way bigger than Psychonauts. You would think that there would be a conversation at Double Fine. Like, we got to make something like that to impress and to carve a market within this Xbox family that's ever growing and to really make ourselves stand out. But the fact that they didn't think that instead they just went, oh, we got Xbox money now? Cool. Let's keep fucking petering around making shit like Kiln. And I say this as someone who bought Kiln day one, who tried to play it, who admires it for what it is conceptually and thinks as an indie Steam game, that's great. But as an Xbox first party game, there is no place for a game like Kiln. And while, yes, the buck stops with Matt Booty, the buck stops with Phil Spencer for having allowed that to ever happen in the first place, it's like, dude, come on. Like, come on, man. Like, coach gave you a chance and you shot for like, you didn't even get close to reaching for the stars. You shot for the fucking ground there. Like, that's bad. That's really, really bad. You could have done a lot more. And so I just think it's worth noting that to some extent, I think it is predominantly Xbox's fault. It's predominantly the previous administration's fault. To some extent, I do think Ninja Theory is somewhat to blame for being dumb enough to think Hellblade 2 was the move. For Double Fine for thinking that Kiln was the fucking move. This is stupid. This is negligent. This is reckless. You don't get to have Xbox money. You don't get to have Xbox support and be among the leagues of Gears of War and Forza Horizon and Fable and Sea of Thieves and be like, we're going to make a game where pottery gets into a fight. No, dude, this isn't 2002 anymore. Let the Steam developers make that game. You're not that guy. You're not that developer. This is not your place. And so there is a little bit a part of that is to blame as well. But I think ultimately the plain and simple to address your comment where we diverge, plain and simple. I just think even though I agree with you that it's like, yeah, I mean, if Asha Sharma steps in and goes, hey, Ninja Theory, we can't be making games like this. We got to go compete with fucking Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and God of War 69 over on PlayStation. We got to compete with that shit. Show me what you can do. You got a couple years. Show me what you can do. We got to do better than Hellblade. And then you give them a chance and then they come back and then they fuck it up, then it's their ass, right? I agree with you fundamentally, but in business, it does not work that you get to go, well, you fucked up the past 8 years, so here's 8 more years to go figure out if you can course correct. It's like, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of time. You can't justify that to bean counters and shareholders and Satya Nadellas and people like that, because that's not how business works. So I'm not saying the cuts are justified. I'm saying this is the reality of how these things work. So whether you like it or not, you kind of got to understand that this is why it happened. Like you can't be oblivious to that. And yes, it is unfair. It's like you get hired at a job. It's like you fucking work at McDonald's, right? You work at McDonald's and like you're the cashier at McDonald's, and your shift manager is a super cool guy who goes, I don't care if you wash your hands. You can take free food every time you go home or go on break. I don't really give a shit. We're just here to have fun. As long as the customers get their meal and everyone's happy, I don't really care what you do. And then some guy from corporate comes to your store and does an audit and sees how poorly your store is being run and fires your ass because he catches you picking your nose and eating cheeseburgers on the clock. And then you get fired because your shitty shift manager conducted a culture where you were allowed to do that stuff. It still doesn't defend you from being fired. It's still you doing the wrong things, even if you were kind of encouraged or allowed to, or leadership looked the other way as you did the wrong things. I understand the buck needs to stop with leadership, but at the end of the day, it's like, wasn't there a part of you maybe going, maybe I shouldn't pick my nose and eat cheeseburgers while I'm on the clock? Maybe I should just wash my hands and say, welcome to McDonald's. How can I help you? So I'm not trying to be that guy that's like, get back to work, Ninja Theory. You work for us. Go make us a better game. But at the same time, it's like, I'm just saying, if Xbox hired me to make an Xbox game, which would be a horrible decision, I would try to put together the most AAA mass market appeal type of game I could possibly make. And if my heart wasn't in it to make a game like that, I wouldn't want to be on Team Xbox, because that's not where you want to be. If your heart is in a place where you want to make indie games and AA games and artsy fartsy projects, you're in the wrong place. You're playing in the wrong league if you think Xbox is the place for, oh, I have mental disorders, I'm British and I'll have a problem with my brain. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Go to fucking Steam if you want to make that game. And I'm sorry that Xbox misled you by enabling you at a point in time to think that this was the place where we wanted games like that. And I'm sorry that the old objective was, we need content for Game Pass, AA, single A, indie, AAA. We need it all. We need a variety, because I know that was the original idea, was that we were going to get Game Pass loaded up with a little bit of everything, a little bit something for everyone. But that never should have been the case. It was always the wrong idea. And the people that were always going to be the most secure were the ones chasing the big audiences and the big bucks. And that's why you see Playground Games in a better shape than Double Fine. Well, that, and because they're like 99% through development of the most anticipated Xbox game right now. Maybe that's a bad example, but I don't know why was Rare less affected? Because they're working on a live service game that doesn't stop fucking making money, even though the game's a decade old. That's why, you know? So I don't know, man. I just, that's my 2 cents on it all. Again, I'm not trying to say someone's right and someone's wrong here. I'm just trying to say, I can look at all the information, recognize that everything here sucks, but I get it. I don't like it. I don't condone it. I don't want it to be true, but I get it. All right, Decoy Doctopus, which we all know is just a play on words, because the original name was clearly Decoy Coctopus, which is a fucking awesome name. God, I want to see your giant dick. Writes in and says, I like both college football and... We had to have some levity here, guys. I like both college football and the NFL. I don't know why I like college more, but I can only think that they're still trying to move up into the pros. That doesn't apply to other sports, so I don't know. Dude, that's cool. I mean, obviously I was ragging hard on college football fans the other day on last week's show. To each their own, man. I don't give a shit. If college football is your sport, that's fucking awesome. More power to you. When I was, for the longest time, I tried so hard to be like, I'm into paintball. It's like, all right, dude, fucking paintball is not going to be a thing. Calm down, dude. So who am I to judge? But that's cool, man. I whatever. College football is clearly a big culture around it. There's clearly something to it that I just personally don't understand and get, and that's fine. I just like to, you guys know, I just like to bust balls for fun. But good for you, man. Hey, hope you're excited. You got that new college football game that apparently is a hot mess because EA is microtransacting the fuck out of it, the single player, which is bad. And but you get the season starting up soon, so I'm sure you're excited. Things are moving and shaking. You got some things to look forward to, so good for you guys. And then lastly here, Objects in Space writes in and says, with everything going on, I've lost all faith and trust in consoles, and I'm considering moving over to PC. I know there's a large cost involvement, but my hope is that it will replace the need to get a Helix or PS6. My main concern is that I've been playing consoles most of my life and that I still have a decently sized physical digital collection of Xbox and PlayStation games. Apart from a few games I have on Steam, I'd have to repurchase games I'd want on PC as well as miss out on future Xbox and PlayStation exclusives. That is, when they stop developing them for Xbox and PlayStation, which could be years into the next generation. I love couch gaming and playing on a large TV, but I can't help but feel like I'm missing out, especially when it comes to mods and emulation. One of those pros would be the true 4K gaming and more competitive pricing on games with multiple storefronts. Oh, dude, if you're on Steam, you don't got to worry about it. There's no better deal than Steam. When you sit down on a console, where do you sit on console versus PC? Is it worth the enormous expense, or do you prefer the simplicity of plug and play that consoles offer? This is a really great and poignant quandary, especially for you to bring up to me, because until pretty recently I was kind of going through something like this, especially a lot of the earlier months of this year. I was kind of going through this, and listen, man, I'll be honest, I think now is one of the best times to be struggling with this quandary or this scenario, because one of the things that's I guess positively affecting people like you or I who are considering jumping over to PC from console is that with how little demand and need there is for an Xbox Helix or a PlayStation 6, and with how powerful the current consoles are, and with how little improvement there will be generation over generation in terms of what we really get out of next generation games, the great news is that the PlayStation 5 you have now, the Xbox Series X you have now, will play next generation's games no problem. Just don't fucking worry about it, because the PS6 is going to be closer to a PS5 Pro than it really is a next generation experience. And probably kind of similarly the Helix, although the Helix is supposed to be some kind of PC hybrid thing, so it's kind of like a way to help wean Xbox fans off of console and transition them to PC anyway. But the way I see it is, if you are apprehensive about is this the right decision for me, just hang on to your Xbox and PS5, because you can always get your console exclusives with the PS5. You don't need a PS6 for them. You can always get, Xbox games with for fuck's sake, dude, you can still play 99% of what's happening on Xbox if you have an Xbox One. I mean, we're already pretty much there. For me, for example, I refuse to buy another PlayStation because I'm just so tired of having to keep up with all the platforms. I find it annoying and stressful. So for me, I'm really looking forward to Wolverine. It's one of my most anticipated games this year. I don't own a PS5. PlayStation just announced they said fuck you to PC players. So I bought a PlayStation Portal for $199, and when Wolverine comes out, I will play it on my PlayStation Portal and then just put that thing back in the closet until Spider-Man 3 comes out or whatever, that's pretty much what that PlayStation Portal is. It's my Marvel Sony handheld gaming device, So there are more options than ever before to kind of dip your toes into the water without necessarily jumping ship from one platform to another. So I think you're in a good place from that perspective. You have the opportunity to flirt and to play around. I'll be honest, man, I was really, really falling hard out of love with Xbox earlier this year. I was especially really beginning last year, but really in the early parts of this year, where I was I'm just kind of disappointed with Xbox. I really fucking hate Game Pass. I hate what Xbox has kind of become. I'm just not a fan of where we're headed as a brand. This whole are they going to stick with console? Are they not? I don't know. I do think some of the Asha Sharma stuff in recent months has actually restored a bit of my faith in Xbox and my confidence in the brand. And also I think me coming around on the Xbox, the ROG Ally has also helped with that as well. But, there was a couple months there where I was pretty much I'm going to get a Steam Deck. I'm going to get a Steam machine when it comes out. I already have a PC that's pretty capable of gaming. I can play pretty much anything I want on my PC as long as it's 1080. I don't have a 4K PC, gaming PC, but I have a 1080p gaming PC, which for me is way more than enough. I'm good with that. So I kind of did, for the most part, switch over to like Nintendo and PC for a couple months there. And I'll be honest, man, I think it's pretty fucking great. I think if you make your gaming desktop like a good gaming space, like you get a desk you like, you have a space you like, you got a PC you like, you're really investing in it, I think it can be fun, and you can make the setup of playing your games at a desk pretty fun. But if you were raised playing games in front of a TV, it's hard to beat that, you know? And so, I don't know, something that's really good is something like an Xbox Ally, because it is it's got a lot of Xbox support, but it also has the ability to go to Steam if you want to play your Steam games, and then you can dock it to your TV, plug it in your TV, and use it as like a little mini console. So like you can kind of ease your way, like 1 foot into Xbox, 1 foot into PC with a device like that. So I think there's ways to really like subtly kind of test the waters. But I would say, if you have a PC that right now that can kind of play some games, what I would recommend is do this. Like if you have, even if it's just like a laptop from college that you used to use or something, and you can play, like Minecraft and indie games on it or whatever, I would say this: put a little bit of money into like a PC space. Like if you already have a desk and a gaming mouse and laptop, and you already have some stuff, like, then maybe you're already there. But maybe put a couple $100 in, buy like a nice desk setup, kind of make a space where it's like, this is my gaming desk space. Buy like a decent monitor for $100 on Amazon, whatever. And commit yourself to playing all of the indie games and the low poly games on that PC. Like when you're playing your friend slot games or just some really lo-fi stuff, just play it all on PC. Even if it's available on Xbox or PlayStation, just play it all on PC. And if over time that experience really grows on you and you're like, I really like gaming this way, I really enjoy this setup, maybe you consider upgrading to a gaming PC. Maybe you consider buying a Steam machine, as outrageous as those are, because you could have that at either your desk or your TV. And then maybe you kind of ease your way in that way, without having to be like, let me buy a gaming PC, give it a try. If I don't like it, oops, I'm fucked. I already made the investment. I don't know, man. That's kind of what I would suggest. And that's just kind of what I did for the longest time, is I really did slowly, I bought a quote unquote gaming PC so I could have a PC to make this podcast easier for me to create every week. But then, it kind of opened the door and allowed me to be able to start gaming on PC as I see fit. I don't think you have to go all in and spend a lot of money. I think you just look for opportunities to make yourself engage with that ecosystem more. And if you find yourself gravitating towards it and saying, hey, I like this, this is the way I'm growing and gravitating towards, and I think it makes sense for me, then lean into it. Go, who gives a shit? At the end of the day, video games are just about fucking having fun. So if you're having fun there, then maybe that's a thing you consider doing. But yeah, man, I mean, I'll say there's no comparison. Like the experience of playing a video game at a computer desk versus playing a video game on a couch at a TV, it's not that one is superior. They're both totally valid. It's just that if you're used to one, the other feels very different, just plain and simple. But I have found that like in my exploration of like getting more into PC gaming in recent years, I've found that there are some games I just like more on PC. Like when I was playing Wasteland 3, like I really loved playing that at a desk. I played it on an Xbox, but I played it at a desk on a PC monitor, and I really enjoyed it. And I love playing Battlefield 6 on PC. I just find it to be most immersive and most engaging at a PC setup. I love playing boomer shooters on PC. I love playing, obviously things like role playing, like RTS, like real time strategy games on a PC. But when like 007 First Light came out, like, I don't know, man, there's just something about sitting on the couch. My girlfriend can sit down and watch while I play and put on the big TV. It's almost like watching a big Hollywood movie. And like, that's like the place for a game like that. I don't know, man. I think where I've landed personally is that I'm going to try my best to just stay open. I'm so invested in Xbox, and there's a part of me that's always rooting for Xbox to come around and be everything we wanted it to be, and everything we need it to be, and everything we remember it being when it was at its peak. And so I'm going to try to stick around with Xbox as long as I can. But I've really, in the past year or two, embraced a lot more Nintendo Switch in my life, a lot more PC in my life. And the way I see it is, it's like I'm probably like 50% on Xbox these days, and then like 50% split between Switch and PC. Maybe like 50% Xbox, 30% Switch, 20% PC. But honestly, you just kind of find a space where it's like, like I wanted to play Resident Evil on Switch. I was just like, oh, I'm going to play all my Japanese shit on the Japanese machine because I'm stupid and that makes sense. It makes my brain happy. And I'm going to play all the indie stuff and all the boomer shooter stuff and all the old school stuff and all the RTS nerdy stuff on a PC because to me that makes sense. And I'm going to play all the Call of Duty and the AAA and the cinematic shit and the action movie shit on an Xbox because to me that made my brain make sense, or that made sense to my brain. So maybe you try something like that. You find ways to compartmentalize what kinds of games belong to what platform based on what you have, and you just kind of gravitate and see where things go. But I don't think we're in a place where we need to give up on PlayStation or give up on Xbox. I think that we're in such a necessary, inevitable transitional period for gaming that with it comes so much heartburn and so much frustration. But these things were inevitable. Like, listen, man, if I said a year ago, the future of gaming is digital, we're going to lose physical media, I think everyone would agree that that is going to happen at some point in the future. But regardless of us knowing that and agreeing that it's probably going to happen, we all end up getting pissed off anyway when it happens, right? Because we weren't ready for it somehow, right? And then it's just like, you know, like when Xbox bought Activision and kept insisting that Game Pass was profitable, even though it clearly wasn't, there was the conversations like, when is the other shoe going to drop? This doesn't make sense. And now that the shoe is dropping and now that things are falling apart at Xbox, it's like, can we really honestly say we're surprised? No, but like, we're still mad about it. So listen, man, we are going through some serious turbulence. It is tough times for the console space. Really, I mean, obviously it's tougher times more than anything for the developers and the people that make the games, but I don't think there's a video game crash. I don't think video games are fucked as a medium. I don't think you have to sell your PlayStation, sell your Xbox. I don't think you have to give up on this brand or that brand. I think we're fine. I just think we have to ride out the storm and realize that we're going to come out on the other end and things are going to be different. Not necessarily better or worse, but different. And a lot of really bad leadership and a lot of bad decision-making happened during those pandemic years. People thought money was free, buy, consume, merge, buy, acquire, grow. And now it's Judgment Day. Now it's time for us to pay whatever price must be paid to offset the horrible decision-making that corporations were making over the past 5+ years. And we're just kind of seeing things play out. And it's rough and it sucks and everyone's suffering from it. Some a lot more than others. But I don't know. I say my advice really more than anything is hold steady. Just try to find the silver lining in all this by, you know, focusing on the things you still like. Like to me, it's like, yeah, I'm really pissed about what's going on in the games industry, but I'm really excited to play Splatoon Raiders next week. I'm curious to see how Halo campaign Evolved turns out. I am fucking excited out of my mind for Wolverine in September. Like, there's good games to play. And the best thing you can do is just try to support the games you're looking forward to when they come out by purchasing them and showing some support to the developers who make these games. Don't give in to Game Pass. Don't boycott a company that you're trying to see turn a corner and get better, or do if it's what you feel like you have to do from a moral standpoint. But I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. I just say, hold on. It's a tough fucking time. And, you're not always going to know exactly how to react or what to do when you're in the thick of it. But I'm sure in a year or two, we'll be able to look back on kind of this time period and be like, okay, I kind of see things a little more clearly. I see how things played out, where I am in all this, what I want to do, how I feel about things. It's just, we're in the middle of it right now. So I don't know. What is it that Jimmy Eat World song that everyone loves so much? You're in the middle of the ride. Everything is going to be all right. I actually just wrote that song as I was just thinking out loud to myself. Guys, my voice is weakening and I'm going to go edit the podcast and take a shower. So thank you all so much for listening. God bless the corporations. I mean, they are people, you know, they have rights. At the end of the day, just remember, Microsoft's a person. Microsoft has rights. So just show some respect to Microsoft as you would any other individual. And, don't tread on me and all that bullshit. So guys, have a great week. Be safe, drive safe, follow the road signs, balance yummy food with healthy food, and make sure if you have children, you tell them you love them and you brush their hair, because unbrushed hair can be, I guess, a problem for some people. And until next week, I'm not going to say power your dreams. I'm going to say Poo poo your pee. That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I said this week.